Just sound like Ariana Grande. Be her. Hi, my name is Sam Johnson and I am a voice teacher. Today I will be reacting to and analyzing Ariana Grande performing Honeymoon Avenue live from London. This month I'm participating in the Step-tember Challenge to raise funds for cerebral palsy research. If you would be interested in helping me out or joining me, please go check out the link in my description. First off, I love this song. This is one of my favorite Ariana Grande songs. This is one of the first Ariana Grande songs that I listened to. This record is my favorite Ariana Grande record, and these strings just transport me. Like, I remember listening to it in my studio when I was teaching in Hong Kong, and I just feel like I'm there again. Oh, this is different. So there is like a lot of air moving in her sound. I don't necessarily hear it as breathiness, at least not all the time. Sometimes at the beginning of a phrase or the end of a phrase or in the middle of a phrase, you know, sometimes during her phrase, she will add just a little bit more of that breath, but I think that that gives a really nice contrast. The thing is, I just don't want people to try to sound breathy all the time. I don't think that's a really, really good choice, but it is a really excellent accent sound. I'm also really impressed with like how well I can understand her so far. So that's a cool thing.
That could be the death of us, baby. Ooh, know how to drive it right, and you decided not to make a change.
So that's great. When she goes to the U, it's like a total flip, but then when she when she opens to the decide, she gets a little bit of a beltier kind of sound, almost to the side of yelly, but it still sounds like it's mixing to me. I have been really into approaching big belty mixy sounds using falsetto or using just quieter sounds to kind of set everything up, because I find that if you do that rather than just jumping right into a big belt, a lot of times it encourages more of a good mix rather than more of a yell or a strained sound. When she goes to same, she almost goes all the way to seam. Like the vowel is so narrow, stuck in the same old lane, versus what I think a lot of people would do if they hear those words. They would probably go to stuck in the same old lane, which won't work as well. So sometimes you need to modify your vowels just a little bit. The audience will probably still be able to understand you fairly well, but it just makes singing easier and it makes the sound that you're creating a little bit more consistent. However, if you set up everything like that, you can go away from it every once in a while if you want to just add a little bit of emphasis, and that's a little bit more like what I heard in the last phrase, you know how, like all of those bigger sounds, they contrast with the more like pure mix. She does the same thing on stuck. Heart is stuck. Heart is stuck in. Heart is stuck in. So that's pretty helpful. Same thing on way to the way to the way. Yeah, so she is going to like some times that have a little bit of breathiness. What's wrong with breathiness? If you're singing with breathiness all the time, it's bad because you don't have enough colors to tell like a comprehensive story, usually. there are some really, really wonderful singers who seem to use that kind of breathiness all the time and make it a big part of their sound. And that it is a very, very popular thing right now. So one, it just makes you less versatile. It becomes really hard if that's your default thing. If you want to be versatile, it becomes really hard to get loud if you're setting yourself up in a breathy place, unless you're skilled enough to know how to move back and forth with them. On the really exaggerated side, if you sing far too breathily all the time, it's not good for your voice. You'll probably get a little bit more tired. It's probably not as problematic as singing too pressed, but you can hear in some of these lines that she's singing how she's moving through that whole spectrum of flow to press. And the press matters because it has contrast. The breathiness matters because it has contrast. It's just another way of helping tell the story better.
Hey, what happened to the butterflies? Guess they encountered that star sign. My heart is at the yellow lights.
She does so much like flipping and then blending back out of the flip in a really smooth way. So like, do those flips, are they mixing within those flips? I actually am not 100% sure. My definition of mix would say that the whole process of what she's doing is a mix, where if you looked at just one individual point with it, I think like it might be easier to say, yeah, that was a flip. Was it a falsetto? I probably wouldn't say it because it wasn't super breathy. Was it a head voice? I would probably guess so, but she's the one who can really tell us if she feels it vibrating in her head as she does that. But the entire approach, I would call a mix, because it's blending back and forth between those in a way that I can't hear like a distinct shift of registers.
Hey, vibe one night, think that we found it. Well, that some beats I turned it around. You're saying, baby, don't worry, but we're still going the wrong way. Maybe you know how to drive it right. You decided not to make a change. Stuck in the same old lane, going the wrong way home.
I do think it's pretty cool how if I muted this, I don't think that I would necessarily know if she's singing a high note or a low note. She's not like doing anything drastically different between the two, which I think is a good thing. And if you are struggling with your singing, maybe notice like, am I changing too much as I go to a different part of my range? And see if you can make things a little bit more even. If you haven't tried it like that, it might be very successful. In my vocal journey, I recognized a few years ago that I was opening my mouth just a little too early whenever I was singing. If I was singing up around like an E4 or something, my mouth would be really quite large and my volume would generally spike. And recognizing that if I don't open my mouth at that point, if I keep it kind of thumb amount of space, and if I keep it as similar volume as I can to where I was starting underneath it, it helped me sing those notes in a much more mixy way. Once you feel it go up into your head voice a little bit more, then it becomes a lot. Then you can get away with opening your mouth a little bit more. Then you can get away with adding a little bit more volume. But if we look at Ariana, she's still not doing any like massive jumps. So see if you can imitate that. I think it's a good thing. Just sound like Ariana Grande. Be her.
I feel like my heart is stuck in traffic. Not fun to crush it 'cause I can't have you the way that I want.
She, like, under pressure, going to that she is narrowing everything towards an I or an E, which I think is the way to do it. When you do that, it brings the back of your tongue up a little, makes the space between the roof of your mouth and the top of your tongue a little bit smaller, which is generally a thing that I like a lot in singing.
Honeymoon, Avenue, my baby, coasting like crazy. Can we get back to the way it was?
I'm also really, really happy with her dynamics because she is singing in a very dynamic way, but we're 3 minutes into this song and she's still not like yelling. She's not singing super, super loud, where I think that most people, when they're singing a song, songs have movement. And to give movement in the story, one of the big tools that people use is they start getting a little bit louder. That's why a lot of times the first chorus or the first verse is a little bit quieter than the first chorus, and then the second verse is usually a little louder than the first verse, but a little quieter than the second chorus, and it just keeps kind of growing like that. But I find that a lot of singers tend to let that get out of their control, and it just grows way too fast. So one thing that might be benefiting her by using these breathy sounds is it gives her a place to return to just kind of normal and chill. And she's letting just the song itself build. She's letting the instrumentalists take a lot of the responsibility in letting everything move. She's collaborating with everything rather than saying, I have to hold all of this myself. I have all of the responsibility of making this song successful, and as a result of that, I'm going to get louder, and I'm going to make people know that we're going into this next part. She's not doing any of that because she is being a nice collaborative little lady.
Sometimes I feel like we've been here before.
But before, that little sound, again, brings the back of her tongue up slightly. A lot of times when people say before, you won't be able to see their tongue. Before versus before. But she's also not going like before. So it's about finding a place in the middle. She has done that. She has found her place in the middle.
So we gon' get lost if we continue to fly. And honey, I know, yeah, we can find our way.
Still not sure about her jaw, y'all. I'm still just not sure why she does that stuff with her jaw. Not really sure. She's so good, and she moves so quickly through those. It must be benefiting her. I think it's got to be benefiting her. We don't do things that don't benefit us, right? Is there a chance that it is not benefiting her, that it is somehow making her wear out faster or making a sound that is less than her ideal? Maybe, but she's really well trained. She's been doing this a lot. I think there's got to be some reason why she does it. I don't understand that reason. And again, this is not something that I generally teach, but after watching her over the last 10 years, I have kind of softened to the fact that some unconventional practices can be okay when you're singing. And there's not you have to do this all the time to sound good and be successful. And this is one of those things. It's still not something I teach, because I think that if someone is just trying to do that, it generally is going to activate the muscles in here a little bit more than is necessary. If everything else in your voice isn't like perfect, then that tension is probably going to feed down into your tongue, is probably going to feed down into your neck, is probably going to feed down into your chest and your shoulders. And all of that tension is not a really good thing. And yes, all of that can happen if we're just like moving our jaw a little bit too much. So, Ariana, if you are watching this, please email me and tell me why you move your jaw like this. We can even set up, a little FaceTime thing. You can tell me to my face during time why you do this, because I'm really just like curious at this point. I'm also really curious, Ariana, what do you think about like opening your mouth a lot when you go to really, really high whistle tone notes? Oh, if Mariah's watching this too, like I'd be curious about your info on that too, because again, like while watching both of you sing, I just noticed that you don't open your mouth a lot when you go up above like the C6. And I'm just curious why. Because in my very limited knowledge, it feels like you should continue opening more and more and more and more, and you don't. And I just want to know like how you figured that out, or like what your general guidelines are in terms of mouth shaping when you start going into your really high notes. So yeah, just no big deal. Send me a FaceTime. Thank you.
I feel like my heart is stuck in bumper traffic. I'm under pressure 'cause I can't have you the way that I want. Let's just go back to the way it was when we were on honeymoon. Honeymoon, baby. Coasting like
go back to that one because I liked that one, that moon that she just did. Let's look at her face and see how much she opens her mouth. She goes up to like the G or something. So it's not a pure like ooh. If she went all the way to pure moon and it was that high, like it wouldn't have the kind of belty sound that we're looking for. So modifying it a little bit by dropping the jaw, it's pretty helpful. But she's, okay, it's the F sharp. She's not going all the way to honeymoon. She's not going to honeymoon because that won't work. She's fine somewhere kind of in the middle in terms of her lip opening. She's doing a nice Goldilocks thing right there, you know, breaking into people's homes and finding the place in the middle that is really perfect. There's also what's happening with her tongue. Like I keep coming back to like that brightness that I hear in her voice. I don't think that brightness is coming from adding a lot of nasality. So by lowering the soft palate, letting a bunch of nasality come through the nose. You can test that by plugging your nose while you're doing anything. And if the sound changes a lot, then there's probably a lot of sound coming out through your nose when you do that. Versus if you don't have that, if your soft palate is up all the time, then the only real thing that's going to change as you plug your nose is the quality of your M's and N's and B's and stuff. So I don't think that that's where her brightness is coming from. I don't think it's from her larynx rising excessively. I think it's from her tongue acting as kind of a rudder and keeping brightness by staying not in her throat. So when she goes to that moon, it's almost moon, honeymoon. It's almost that German sound.
I've been doing, baby, hustling like crazy. Can we get back to the way it was? We were on honeymoon. I knew honeymoon. I will do my baby, hustling like crazy. Can we get back to the way it was?
See, and then at the end, like she goes back to not being the loudest. Finding that dynamic range, recognizing, okay, I got pretty loud here. Now can I pull back? And why? Like, why would she pull back? What does that do to the communication of everything? To me, it makes it a little more interesting. I'm not being yelled at all the way through the end of a song. It's just interesting. But when you are finding these dynamic shifts for yourself, I think it's important, especially if you're just learning, to start by making it boring. Like we're going to make these dynamic shifts just because we know that something needs to happen dynamically. And if you're a beginner singer and you haven't really been thinking about that very much, just follow the formula. Then once you start just playing with it in a very formulaic way, then you'll probably just start feeling moments where like it feels right to get a little louder here. It feels right to get a little quieter here. And then you can do a little bit of reverse engineering and wonder, what is the emotion that is generating these kind of things? And then can we put that as the cart that is behind the horses of saying, I want to feel this way, or I feel this way. I'm trying to get this stuff across. And then the dynamic shifts will happen in a much more organic way. She's just doing it because it sounds good. Duh. I just don't get it. That was fun. She can still sing, so that's a good thing. Congratulations on that to everyone who is her and to who is listening to her and is a fan. She sure hasn't forgotten how to sing. I thought some of the changes that she was doing were really fun in just the arrangement of the song. It's fun to update your stuff. Vocally, like she sounds like a grown woman now, that's for sure. She sounds like a dangerous woman if you ask me, versus, you know, when she was a child singing this on the original recording. There's a little bit more depth to her voice that I hear, and that's just like a natural thing that kind of happens as people grow. I don't know if she has like drastically changed her technique to get that. I don't really think so. She sounds like it's been a pretty natural progression from growing up. Good singing. Still don't have any idea why she does all that stuff with her jaw. Like, I just don't get it, but you know, it's working for her. Just please don't imitate her. Please, or do. And then, you know, when you get broken, come sign up for a voice lesson at vocalese.net. Thank you. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below telling me everything I got wrong. Please let me know how I'm wrong or right, I guess. And go check out the September link. Please leave a donation. It is a thing that I think would be really cool. Thank you.